Salam sejahtera and a very good day to all. Welcome to our group's online forum discussion. Today, we will be discussing a very important topic: how does socioeconomic status or SES influence a student's educational opportunities and outcomes in the Malaysian context? Each of us in this discussion will speak from a different stakeholder perspective, including schools leaders, teachers, parents, and community leaders. Let's begin with our first speakers who will be taking on the role of a school leaders. On to our first speakers. As a school leader, how do you see the impact of socioeconomic status in Malaysian schools, particularly in terms of resources and school management?
Okay. Thank you, moderator. Salam sejahtera to all speakers. I'm speaking today as a school leader based in a semi-rural district. And I would like to share how socioeconomic status or SES has a major impact on students' educational outcomes, especially in terms of school resources and infrastructure. In Malaysia, we can see clear differences between schools in urban areas and those in rural or low-income communities. Urban schools often have better facilities, more experienced teachers, and access to digital tools. But in rural schools, we still face issues like outdated classrooms, limited internet connectivity, and a shortage of qualified teachers. For example, some schools under my supervision still share science labs between multiple classes or don't have enough laptops for blended learning. Students from high-income families can compensate by enrolling in tuition centers or even private schools. But for students from low-income or B40 families, they rely fully on what the school can offer. So if the school is under-resourced, they are immediately at a disadvantage. The Malaysian Education Blueprint 2023 2013, my bad, until 2025 does emphasize equity and inclusivity, and there have been some improvements. But in reality, implementation can be uneven. Funds may be allocated, but delays in infrastructure upgrades, teachers, postings, or school maintenance continue to affect many schools, especially in Sabah, Sarawak, and parts of Kelantan or Perlis. Another issue is digital access. During the COVID-19 pandemic, many students couldn't participate in online learning. It is not because they weren't motivated, but because they simply didn't have devices, stable internet, or a quiet space at home. As school leaders, we tried to support them with printed materials or community-based internet hubs, but it wasn't a long-term solution. In my opinion, tackling educational inequality requires more than policies, but it needs consistent funding, strong monitoring, and better support for schools serving underprivileged communities. Thank you. That's all from me.
Okay, thank you for those insights. Now let's hear from a teacher's perspective. From the classroom level, how does a student's environment and SES affect their academic performance and learning experience?
Okay, thank you and salam sejahtera to everyone. So I'm sharing my thought today from the perspective of a teacher who works in a public secondary school located in an urban low-income area. So from my experience, socioeconomic status has a huge influence on student academic performance, and it often begins outside the classroom, not inside of it. Many inside from the lower income families faces challenges that go beyond just schoolwork. Some of them come to school without having had a proper breakfast. Others don't have a quiet space at home to study, and some even have to work part-time to help their family support. For example, I had a student who was bright and eager to learn, but he kept missing school. Later, I found out he was working night at nearby food stall to help his single mother. So while he had potential, he didn't have the same opportunities had the student from the wealthier backgrounds. Another big issue is access to learning resources. Students from higher SES background usually have access to tuition reference, books, high-speed internet, and educational apps. During pandemics, these inequalities became more obvious while some students joined classroom or even Zoom lesson regularly. Others disappear for weeks, but why? Because they didn't have a smartphone or internet data. I also noticed that students from families more educated parents tend to receive more support at home. In contrast, some students from low SES family may be the first in their family to reach secondary school and they don't always have the same encouragement or guidance. So as teacher, we play a crucial role, but we can't do it alone. A student with an academic journey is shaped by their environment, their family, and also their social condition. If we want to educational equality, then we have to look beyond just what happened inside the classroom. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. That was very enlightening. Now, let's shift to a parent's point of view. How does socioeconomic status affect your ability to support your child's education, especially when it's come to access to higher education or additional learning resources?
Okay. Thank you and Assalamualaikum. Good day, everyone. I'm speaking today as a parent, and I did like to share how our family socioeconomic status influence how we support our children in their education. I come from a B40 family background, and honestly, it's not always easy. As a parent, of course, we want the best for our children. We want them to do well in school and go to university. But sometimes it's not about whether we care, it's about what we can actually afford or manage. For example, when it comes to school expenses like uniform, textbook, or internet bill, we have to budget very carefully. During the pandemic, we had 3 children at home, but only one smartphone. They had to take turn attending online class, and that really affected their learning, not because they were lazy, but because they did have the tool. Also, many parents from low income or less educated background may not fully understand how to help with homework or guide their children academic. Some of us did go to university ourselves, so we unfamiliar with things like PTPTN, Maralon, or university application processes. I also noticed that higher income families often send their children to tuition or enrichment classes like robotic or coding. But for families like mine, we sometimes have to choose between buying groceries or paying for extra class. That being said, I really appreciate the assistance program like Baitumal Persekolahan and Perantisiswa. These have helped relieve some of the financial stress, but even so, not all parents know how to apply for this aid or may miss deadline due to lack of awareness or internet access. I believe that if we want all children in Malaysia to have equal opportunities, we also need to support parents, especially from B40 communities, maybe with workshop, community center, or school parent program to teach us how to better support our kids. Education should not only focus on students, but also empower families. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that valuable contribution. Next, let's listen to the community's leaders' perspective. In your view, how does the community play a role in either supporting or limiting a student's educational growth, particularly in lower income areas?
Thank you, moderator, and hi everyone. Today I'm speaking to as a community leader from a local NGO that work closely with family and youth in underserved area. In my view, education is the most powerful tools for social mobility, but unfortunately, not all communities have equal access to the support system needed to make that happen, especially in low-income neighborhood or rural village. For example, in many of the B40 communities we work with, there are few facilities like libraries, tuition centers, or safe spaces for students to study after school. Many parents are working long hours, so students often don't have anyone to guide them or even supervise them at home. This is where the role of the community becomes very important. If we want students to succeed, we must build an ecosystem that supports education beyond just the school. One example I like to highlight is Teach for Malaysia. Their fellows have been placed in high-need schools and often collaborate with community groups to teach students more holistically. Programs like those led by Yayasan Hazanah and other CSR initiatives also provide educational kits, digital device, and mental health support for students who need them most. But the problem is many of these efforts are short-term or limited to certain areas. Once the funding stops or project ends, the support system disappeared. What we really need is sustainable, community-based education strategy that can be maintained locally even without outside help. In conclusion, socioeconomic status doesn't just affect individuals, but it affects whole communities. But if we take a collective approach where schools, family, and communities work hand in hand, we can break the cycle of educational inequality and build a better future for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Lastly, let's hear directly from a student. Can you share your personal experience as a student from a lower or middle socioeconomic background and how it has impacted your educational journey?
Thank you to moderator and all speaker. I'm speaking as a student from B40 family, and I like to share my personal experience with how socio-economic status has affected my education. I always value education and I work hard in school, but growing in low-income household means facing extra challenge that students from wealthier families may not fully understand. For example, during my SPM year, I didn't have a proper place to study at home. We live in a small flat with 5 family members, so it was noisy and I had to study at night when everyone was asleep. We didn't have Wi-Fi and I had to depend on prepaid data to attend online class during the pandemic. Sometimes I would go to the nearby library or even sit outside a cafe to use the free internet. I also couldn't afford tuition like many of my classmates. Some of them had extra class for every subject, for example, ed math, physics, even English speaking lesson. I'm grateful for those teachers who took time to explain things after class or gave us a printed note when we couldn't go online. Financially, financial pressure also made me consider quitting school after SPM to work and support my family. I saw some of my friends do that. They become delivery riders or work in shop. But thankfully, I received encouragement from my school counselor and help applying for PTPTN. I'm now continuing my study at local polytechnic. Honestly, I believe that talent exists in every kampong, every flat, every corner of Malaysia. I hope that in the future we will see more we see more effort to support students like me, just not just with money but with guidance, motivation, and equal access to education. Thank you.
Thank you to all our panelists for your thoughtful insight. From today's discussion, it's clear that socioeconomic status plays a critical role in shaping students' educational opportunities in Malaysia, whether in through access to quality resources, parental guidance, or community support. Students from low income or underprivileged background face greater challenge in their educational journey. However, we also learn that various initiatives, just as government aid, NGO support, and increased community involvement, can help close this gap. We hope our discussions today can contribute to a better awareness and encourage more inclusive policies and efforts in our education system. That concludes our discussion. Thank you for listening. Assalamualaikum and goodbye.